Everybody knows the Haftorah we read Yom Kippur Mincha time, the book of Yonah. Everybody knows that. But Yom Kippur morning, we read the book of Isaiah 58. Yom Kippur morning. Interesting what we say. Chapter 58 in the book of Yeshayahu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you're fasting fine. Everything is good, you're fasting. But then he says in chapter 58, verse 5, this is Yom Kippur morning Haftorah. Can such be the fast that I choose? That's all? That a person merely afflicts himself? That's all I want? Do you call this a fast day that Hashem favors? Surely this is the fast that I choose, says Hashem. It's not enough just to fast. To break open the shackles of wickedness. To undo the bonds of injustice. And to annul all perversion. Surely you should share your bread with the hungry and bring the poor into your home. When you see a naked person, a sad person, give him sustenance and support. And do not hide yourself from your kin. What does that mean? Do not hide yourself from your kin. Charity begins at home. Relatives come first.
Are you picking on poor Shirley to give bread? Doesn't everybody give bread?
Surely. Not Shirley. Surely. You should break your bread for the hungry. Bring the poor to your home. Clothe the naked. Cheer up those that are sad and depressed. So God said it's not enough just to fast. You have to be good to the less fortunate. Where does this idea come from? Where does this idea come from in the book of Isaiah? It comes way back to 4 words that changed world history. If you go back to the book of Bereshis, chapter 40, Yosef HaTzadik is in prison. Remember, he was framed for attempted rape. Who's in prison there with him? The butler and the baker. The butler and the baker are in prison with him. Yosef got his own tzoros. He's, rotting away in jail for a frame-up. So the butler and the baker have a dream. Yosef sees them, and he sees that they're depressed and sad. So mind your own business. You got your own tzoros. But Yosef HaTzadik says to them in chapter 40 of Genesis, verse 6, Yosef comes to them in the morning, he sees that they're sad and upset. And he says to them 4 words that change world history. Madua panechem royim hayom. Why are you so sad and depressed? You look like death warmed over. This is what Yosef said to whom, Avi? The butler and the baker, after they had their weird dreams, they became sad and depressed. So mind your own business. Don't you have your own troubles, Yosef? If Yosef didn't care, if he would mind his own business, so they're depressed and sad, I got my own tzoros. He would rot in jail, and the Yeshua would never come. Because when they explain to him why they're sad and depressed, he tries to cheer them up. And when he tells the butler, when you get out of jail, remember me, to Paroi, right? So the butler tells the whole story. Paroi has the weird dream. Yosef comes out of jail, not only saves Egypt from starvation, he saves his whole family from starvation. The whole Middle East would have died of famine. So if Yosef would not have spoken up, why should I care? These guys are pagans. So they're having a bad hair day, Maddie. Why should I care?
But he got penalized for 2 more years in jail because he relied on the butler.
What? That's a different story, okay? But we just want to know why, if he wouldn't have said anything, mind your own beeswax, right? He would have rotted in jail. His family in Canaan would have what? Died of famine. What happens to the Jewish people? World history would have taken a completely different turn. Who knows what would have happened? But because he cared for another person, even a non-Jew, because every person has a tzelem Elokim, he wanted to cheer them up. So he spoke up, and therefore the butler got out of jail, right? And 2 years later, he was able to get Brother Joe out of jail, become the viceroy of Egypt, save his whole family in the Middle East from starvation. So what do you see, Yosef?
Better not tell the stories, Menachem.
Well, what do you see? What do you see? That the tafkid of a Jew is what? To help others. Mickey, you're beautiful. So Isaiah 58 didn't make it up. It comes from whom? Brother Joe. Yosef HaTzadik in Genesis 40. The 4 words that change history. Madua panechem roim hayom. Why are you so sad and upset? Maybe I could help you. And that got the ball rolling. The butler got out, right? He remembered Joseph, and Yaakov's family didn't starve to death. He saved them and the whole Middle East. But what's the point, Masha? To care for another human being, even a non-Jew. Isaiah 58, but we just read, that is the reading of Yom Kippur morning.
It's a tough kid to human being.
Beautiful. Now, if you look at 58,
Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Goldstein told me, he said,
yeah,
you have to help every human being, and you have to be holy as well.
Oh, that's right. Now, if you look at the Haftorah, we're going to read Yom Kippur morning, chapter 58. The Jews say, God, aren't you proud of me? I'm fasting, I'm suffering. He says to them, you're suffering on Yom Kippur. What about those people who suffer undepressed all year? What about them? What about the day after Yom Kippur? Are you going to be concerned for them? Are you going to reach out for them? That's what God says I want. When does he say that? Yom Kippur morning in chapter 58. But I'm saying this idea comes from Yosef HaTzadik. What a powerful Haftorah. On the day between man and God, God says, reach out to your fellow man. Don't forget the day after Yom Kippur. You're suffering today. What about those who suffer all year? You're concerned about them? That's what Judaism teaches. To show kindness and generosity to all people. These butler and the baker, they weren't Jewish. They were pagans. Very, very powerful message of the Haftorah that we're going to read on Yom Kippur Shabbos morning, right? Everybody focused on Yonah, but there's a Yom Kippur morning reading from the book of Isaiah 58. It's just incredible. God goes further. Offer your soul to the hungry, he says in chapter 58. Offer your soul to the hungry. Isn't that incredible? That's what Hashem wants. On Yom Kippur, no less. Interesting. Last week, we read the book of Hazinu. We read Pashas Hazinu, Devarim 38. Moshe Rabbeinu is about to die. God tells him, you're about to die. You're not going to come to Pisgat Zev because you dealt falsely with me. Deuteronomy 32, Pasuk 51. You dealt falsely with me. You didn't sanctify me among the Yidden, among the Jewish people. Therefore, I'll let you see the land, but you're not going to get there. It's like your little child wants chocolate ice cream. You say, see the chocolate ice cream? You say it? You say it? Yeah, you can't have it. Maddie, what is God teasing him? You'll see the land, but you're not going to go there. But before we get there, God reminds him. God reminds him of his sin. You dealt falsely with me. You hit the rock. You spoke to the rock. You said, we will give you water instead of God will give you water. You dealt falsely with me. Unkala says. Therefore, you didn't sanctify me, so you're not coming to Eretz Yisrael. But Nachum, I got a problem with this. Because the Rambam paskins lahalacha and based on the Gemara B'Metzia, you're not allowed to remind about tshuva of his past deeds. I knew you were going to ask that question. Moshe did tshuva for this. He begged God 515 times. Gematria Vet Chanan is Gematria how much? 515. That's not tshuva. He spilled his guts out. Why is God reminding him? Doesn't God know the Rambam and Hilchas Tshuva? You're not allowed to tell about Tshuva what? Remember, you were a bad boy. Matt, you hear the question on the table?
None of the Shvatim, no.
Good question, right?
None of the Shvatim, Aaron, Miriam, Moshe.
Yeah.
None of them went to Israel. None of them crossed the Jordan.
Right.
It wasn't only Moshe that was punished. Aaron was punished. Miriam
Aaron was involved with the rock. Miriam wasn't involved with the rock.
she spoke slander against Moshe.
But she suffered, she became a leper. She paid the price.
But she didn't make it either.
She didn't make it either. Why? Why didn't she make it either, right? So I'm going to go a little bit off the track, but remind me to get back to, Yosef asked a good question, right? So, but remind me to get back on track, okay? So to answer your question, we have to go to the book of Micha. I'm prepared. God tells the prophet Micha, I brought you out from the land of Egypt, and I took you out from the house of slaves, and I sent before you to lead you Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. So there were 3 co-captains. God's an equal opportunity employer. God tells the prophet Micha, chapter 5, I redeemed you from Egypt, and I sent you 3 leaders, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, to be co-captains. Did Captain Smith leave the Titanic? He could have left. But the captain goes down with the crew. With the crew. So even though Miriam wasn't involved in the sin of hitting the rock or speaking to the rock, God tells Micha or Micah, she's a co-captain. It wouldn't be fair for what? To let her come in to escape the sinking Titanic where the crew is going down. The captain goes down with the crew. But we see from here that God does not discriminate. God's an equal opportunity employer. It says, Eshlach lefanecha, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, to lead you. So therefore, she couldn't jump ship. It wouldn't be fair. Her crew goes down and she escapes. But now getting back to the question of what? Of why God brings up when the sin, when you're not reminded about tshuva of his past deeds. The answer is God is not reminding him. There's halacha. Before a person dies, he must confess his sins. Where does that halacha come from?
Right here.
Right here. Ooh. Moshe, God says, you're about to die. I'm reminding you of your sin, not to rub it in, but I want to teach a halacha. Before a person dies, he must say vidui. He must confess. And therefore Hashem is telling him, confess for the sin. This is the source for the halacha that a dying person should say vidui.
Even though he said it 550 times before.
So you should say vidu every day.
No, don't say vidui every day, but there's a special vidui that a person that lo yalein lo buying has to confess. So even though you did tshuva for that, but a special halacha when a person is about to die, you should say vidui. But how does the halacha know that? When God reminds Moses not to rub it in, he says, you're about to die, Deuteronomy 32, you're about to die, therefore confess your sin, but you broke faith with me. Now, what about God says you're going to see the land, but you're not going to go there? Is God teasing Moses? No. So Rashi says, Ki minega tirat haaretz. The reason that we prosper in Pisgat Zev, the reason Eretz Yisrael is the high-tech leader in every field, high-tech, low-tech, water drip, super startup nation, what's the reason, Avi? Moshe's ayin tovah. Yiddish Maddie, if Moshe wouldn't have eyeballed the land of Israel, we would not be here today, the most successful startup nation, when 90% of the people claim they're very happy despite all the tzoros. That's only because of Moshe's ayin tovah. God says you got to eyeball the land. And because of that, we prosper. So that's a great nechama for Moshe Rabbeinu. God is not teasing him. But the only way that we have success in this country is because Moshe Rabbeinu was told by God to give it the look. You've got that look. Pretty interesting. And then Zois HaBracha. The Zois HaBracha, Moshe Rabbeinu is giving a bracha to the Jewish people before he dies. Before he dies, he gives them a bracha. Each tribe gets their what? Their special bracha. Every tribe gets their special bracha. There are 12 tribes. Each tribe had their own musach. Each tribe had their own flag. Each tribe had their own, the way they pronounced the words. Why? What do you need 12 tribes for? Why couldn't there be just one tribe? So the Ramban says, it's like 12 spokes of a wheel, but they all lead to what? The center. So why the 12 tribes, says Ramban? Because Judaism doesn't say my way or the highway. There's at least 12 ways to get to the truth. Each Shevet had their unique way of expressing themselves, their unique tafkid, and they're not in competition with each other. We have unity, but we don't have what? Uniformity. That's very important that the Torah is what? A teaching over here. Moshe gave each tribe their particular tafkid. Zevulun was the businessman. Yisachar was the Torah scholar. And it's amazing. Rashi says, why does Zevulun get mentioned before Yisachar? Who was the older brother, David? Yisachar was the older brother. And that Zevulun, the businessman, gets top billing. Even though Yisachar was older. Beautiful. So Rashi says, since Zevulun supported Yisachar, so Yisachar's Torah study is only possible because of what? The businessman, Zevulun. So therefore, who gets top billing? The businessman.
Money can buy you all Haba.
It's pretty incredible.
In this case,
Right? It's incredible. Deuteronomy 33, Yud Ches. Yisachar and Zevulun made partnership. Zevulun, a businessman, and he will what? Support the Koilel Yisachar, and they will learn Torah. Therefore, Yisachar does not get top billing, even though Yisachar was the older brother. It's Zevulun. Smach Zevulun b'tzeisecha. Zevulun, be happy in your business ventures, and Yisachar what? In your Torah study. And who knows what's more important to Hashem? Right? So every person has their unique tafkid, and no one can say what? It's my way or the highway. That's pretty incredible. Now, the end of the Torah, the very end of the Torah, Moshe dies there, right? Deuteronomy 34, Moshe dies there, Evet Hashem. He dies there. Even in his act of dying, he's a servant of Hashem. He accepts it. He accepts it. Now, this parsha is always comes out Yom Kippur. It's not read Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur is a special reading, right? But Zois HaBracha always falls out on Yom Kippur. Moshe died there, the servant of Hashem. The servant of Hashem. What does a servant mean? Nechama? All for the boss. A servant only thinks about what? His master. So on Yom Kippur, we all become an Evet Hashem. We all unite, all for the boss. The Evet Hashem. And therefore, on Yom Kippur, you're supposed to fast. You don't eat, you don't drink, you don't smear yourself, right? You look at the end of Masechta Yuma, Rabbi Kiva says, just like a mikvah cleanses a person, so Kodesh Baruch Hu cleanses us what? On Yom Kippur. The Mishnah Yuma at the end, that on Yom Kippur, God acts as our mikvah. It is incredible, Yaakov. God acts as my personal mikvah to cleanse me. But in a mikvah, if you want to be pure, let's say go into a mikvah and you're holding on to a dead rat. It'll help you? You can dunk 100 times. But if you don't let go of the dead rat, what's a dead rat? Sin. You go to Yom Kippur into the mikvah, God says, how can I help if you don't throw away the dead rat, the sin? And also in a mikvah, you can't have any chatzitza. How do you say that, Yosef, in English, a chatzitza? You can't have any clothes on. You can't have any what? Rings on. You have to be completely what? Immersed in the mikvah. So therefore, eating and drinking on Yom Kippur is a chatzitza. If I want to get totally immersed in God's mikveh, I have to get rid of the outside external factors. No eating, no drinking, no schmearing. All of those act as a, how do you say, chatzitz? I think impediment?
Unless you're on the
Barrier.
A barrier to God's loving mikveh, which surrounds me on Yom Kippur.
medical issue, you have to take medication.
Well, if you what? If your life isn't there. I told you the story of the Balatanya. I don't know if you were here. No. You weren't here? Lubavitcher Rebbe, at his first Sikha, when he kicked off his Rebbe'ship in 1951,
Inauguration speech.
organization, as the first Sikha as a Rebbe, he told the story of the Balatanya. He told the story of the Balatanya. It's Yom Kippur night. It's late. They want to say called Nidre. The Balatanya is nowhere to be found. Gee, what could have happened to him? Got stuck on a bubble gum. It's Yom Kippur. It's late. Called Nidre. Lubavitcher Rebbe, first Sikha. They went looking for him. Where did they find him? Right before Yom Kippur, the day before, this Jewish girl who had an affair with a non-Jew gave birth to a baby. Her own parents kicked her out of the house because she had an affair with a non-Jew. Sinner. She's starving. She and her baby is starving. So she took up somewhere in the deserted cabin. So Balatanya, Yom Kippur night, Shirley, what did he do? First he lit the stove. He lit a fire on Yom Kippur. He lit a fire and he cooked for her and the baby.
To save a life.
To save a life. Even of a sinner. She's a sinner.
And she's Jewish, too.
The baby's Jewish. The baby's Jewish. Doesn't matter. She's a sinner. It doesn't matter. A person, what's more important than Yom Kippur? Staying alive, staying alive. Balatanya himself, he didn't send a chosed to do it. He himself did it.
It's a true story?
If the Lubavitcher Rebbe told it during his Sikha, kickoff Sikha, it's a true story. All right? Look at 1951. There's a book of Sikhas. How do you say Sikhas in English? His speeches. His talk as a rookie rabbi, he told that story. He says, this is what Chabad is all about. Not to condemn or speak negatively about any Jew. God's love is unconditional. And therefore our love to a fellow Jew should be unconditional. That set the tone for Chabad. You know, at the Chabad Farbrengen, there were Reform and conservative rabbis came, they sat on the dais. You didn't know that. And many Orthodox rabbis were upset and they didn't show up after that. They asked about, what are you doing? He says, does God put labels on Jews? Does God call him conservative, reform, and constructionist? To God, we're all Jews. I don't judge anybody, and I don't label anybody. You hear what the great man said? So they sat up by the dais up front, conservative reform rabbis. Not PC, right? David, not PC. But I think he was super Haredi. Lubavitcher Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. That's the kind of man that he was. That his love embraced all Jews, not just Jews. He loved all people. All people. This is Yosef HaTzadik. Someone is suffering, someone is sad. You reach out and try to cheer them up. The powerful message of Isaiah 58 that we read. So the last pasuk in the Torah, the Yad HaChazakah, the Yad HaChazakah, the powerful hand. Whose powerful hand? Whose powerful hand? Rashi says Moshe. He's able to carry those heavy sapphire tablets, right? Le'ene kol Yisrael. He was able to carry the heavy tablets in front of the eyes of all the Jewish people. And Rashi says, Moshe broke, the Torah says Moshe broke the tablets, right? And instead of God being angry with him, Moshe broke the tablets. The tablets are written with the finger of God. He smashes them. Avi. So God should say, how dare you? My own handwriting, my own tablets from the Kisha HaKovod, you smashed? Instead of being angry with him, Yosef, God gives him Yishukoach. Yishukoach sheshibarta. I give you a shikoach that what? That you broke the luchos. Why is God giving a shikoach for? Now, how do we know that God is Ashkenazi? Because a Sfaradi would have said Chazaka Baruch. Shirley, you with me on this? God says, Yishikoyach sheshibarta. Quoting Rashi. The last Rashi in Chumash. God says, Yishikoyach, that you smashed the luchos. But a Sfaradi would say what? Chazaka Baruch. But Yaakov.
Hashem's Ashkenaz.
That's his joke. That's my joke. Don't steal my thunder. Maddie, the last Rashi, tell your granddaughter, the last Rashi in Chumash. God says, Yishikoyach sheshibarta, that you smashed the luchos. So the question is...
I think he's more likely that he's farting because
what?
he's warmer and loving than we are.
The question is, why did God give him a shikoch? Why wasn't God upset with him? Why? So Rashi quotes the Chazal, the Midrash, could be compared to a king who betrothed his queen, and then he went on a business trip. And he left the queen with the maidservants. And the maidservants took the queen to what? To a wild party. And he appointed the best man to deliver the ketubah to the queen. So the best man wants to bring the ketubah to the queen, and she sees that what? And he sees that she's what? Engaged in a wild party. So he's thinking, of, if I give her the ketubah, then she's legally married. Then it's adultery that she's fooling around. But if I tear up the ketubah, I don't deliver it to her, then what? She's not officially married. So he tears up the ketubah. That's the moshel. How do you say moshel in English? The parable. What's the nimshel? Who's the king? Kodesh Baruch Hu. Who's the betrothed queen? We are. Who's the best man? Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the ketubah? The luchot. The luchot. So God says, thank you that you broke the luchos. If you would have given it to them, they committed adultery on the honeymoon, worshipping a golden calf. Still the honeymoon. Can you imagine that? So since Moshe smashed the luchos, we were not officially married, so it's a loophole for God to what? To forgive us. How much God loves us. Instead of being angry at Moshe Rabbeinu, he what? Gives him a pat on the back.
Wouldn't he have forgiven us even if he gave us?
If we would have gotten the luchos from the best man Moses, we would be condemned. We would be legally married, you know, to Hashem. The chuppah, right? And then you're making out with the golden calf disco. Idolatry, that's spiritual adultery.
So you get whacked.
What? So therefore, Moses, the best man, says, no, I'm not going to give her the ketubah. Then she's not officially married yet. So God appreciated that and gave Moshe a knippen beckel. How do you say that in English? A knippen beckel. Last Rashi in Chumash, David. How much God loves us. We have to know that when? On Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, we have to know that. And more than that, tomorrow there's a mitzvah to eat and drink. In fact, the Talmud says whoever eats and drinks tomorrow is like he what? Fasted 2 days. Right? How does the Talmud know that? What? If you feast tomorrow, it's like you what? Fasted what? 2 days. How does the Talmud know that? How does the Talmud know that?
Jews like a good deal.
Right?
Buy one, get two.
No. Jews love bargains, right? So if you take a look what the Torah says about Leviticus 23, there seems to be a contradiction, Yaakov. Leviticus 23:27, it says, you shall fast Yom Kippur ba'asar lachodesh hashvi. Leviticus 23:27, on the 10th day of the 7th month, is what? Yom Kippurim, you shall fast. But then, in verse 32, it says, Initem et nafshoseichem b'tisha lachodesh. You shall afflict yourself when? On the 9th. Houston Control, we have a problem. Leviticus 23, verse 27 says, Yom Kippur, you shall afflict yourself when? Ba'asar lachodesh hashvi. What does that mean? on the 10th day of this month. Is Yom Kippur, afflict yourself. Verse 32 says, wait a minute. You shall afflict yourself b'tisha lachodesh. I'm all mixed up. Maddie, make up your mind. Do I afflict myself on the 10th, verse 27? Do I afflict myself on the 9th, verse 32? So the Talmud says, you afflict yourself on the 10th. When it says afflict yourself on the 9th, it really means what? Manja manja. It says fast on the 9th, but the oral Torah says, it says fast, but it really means what? Feast. I don't understand this. Why can't God, tell it to me straight? I mean, why go like this, David, when you can go like this? If you want me to feast on the 9th of the month, say so. Why do you have to say fast on the 9th, but the oral Torah says, surely, no, it really means what? Feast. Why not tell it to me? Tell it like it is. The Karaites have a big problem with this verse. Looks like they fast on the 9th and the 10th.
Karaites don't fast?
I think. I'm a text man.
2 days. Yeah, they fast 2 days. Yeah.
So why does the written Torah say fast on the 9th of the month, but the oral Torah says no? It really means what? Feast. Says the Mishnah Brewer, the Holy Chofetz Chaim, something incredible. The Mishnah says in Avot, Lefum Tzara Agra, according to the pain, Avi, is the gain. In other words, no pain, no gain. That's the shortest Mishnah in Shas. 3 words, Lefum Tzara Agra. According to the pain, is the gain. No pain, no gain. Says the Chofetz Chaim HaKadosh, Mishnah Brewer. If God would have written feast on the 9th, everybody loves to manja. I love to stuff my face. How much reward could God already give me, Yaakov? No pain, no gain. Everybody loves macaroni and cheese or pizza, right? So if God would have written feast on the 9th of the month, tomorrow, there's no effort, there's no pain, there's no pain, no gain. He couldn't give you a big reward. Everybody loves to manja. In order to increase my reward, look how much he loves us. He writes, you shall afflict yourself on the 9th, fast on the 9th, but it really means what, Nechama? Feast. But I'll make believe that your feast is what? A fast. In order to what? Increase your reward. Who loves you, baby? You got to know that. On the Erev Yom Kippur, tomorrow when I'm stuffing my face, God is making believe that I'm what? Fasting. In order to give me what? A double reward. That's how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me. The Karaites looks like they fast 2 days.
Waiting for a question on Yom Kippur?
1 second, one last point, then I'll leave for questions. But this is a game changer. About to tell you a game changer. I think it's a game changer. One of the most important services of Yom Kippur is the scapegoat. Nechama, the scapegoat. The devil made me do it. And there the Torah says something amazing about a scapegoat. We're going to read it when? Yom Kippur morning, the Torah reading, before we get to Isaiah. The Torah says as follows. Please hear me. The Kohen shall confess all the sins of the Jewish people on the head of the scapegoat. And the scapegoat will carry away the sins. V'shilach b'yad ish iti. And send the scapegoat with all the sins through the hand of a man that's iti. B'yad ish iti. What does iti mean? The word iton, a newspaper. A man that reads a newspaper? B'yad ish iti. Powerful message over here. Iti means it's only for the moment. David, an iton. Yesterday, iton, Jerusalem Post. What do you do with yesterday's news? No, you wrap dead fish in it. Avi, is yesterday's news worse than anything, Yaakov? It's only for the moment. Torah is teaching me a person does sin because he's an ish iti. He only thinks what? For the moment. The pleasure is only for the moment. How long does it take to eat a cheeseburger? Or a slice of bacon?
Not too long.
It's only a moment.
That's hungry.
Right? And even illegal sex, the pleasure lasts a moment. And then you're left with the shame and the guilt. Shirley, you glad you came today? Yadi Shiti, Torah is saying, why does a person commit a sin? He's an Ishiti. He's only thinking for the moment. And when the moment is gone, the pleasure is gone. Even a big fat cheeseburger takes a couple of minutes and then it's over. That's why a person sins. If you would think about Lashem, the scapegoat for God, that's forever. But the scapegoat, the sin of a person, that's because he's only thinking ish iti. He's only thinking for the moment.
You're disconnecting from Hashem.
And then when the moment is over, the bacon is eaten, the cheeseburger is eaten. You smoke a cigarette and you turn over, right? And what are you left with? The shame and the guilt. Where do you see this in Tanakh? Remember the story of Amnon and Tamar in the book of Samuel? Amnon, the son of King David, was passionately and madly in love with his half-sister Tamar. Remember? He couldn't keep his hands off of her. After he had his way with her, no, the Navi says, the hate that he had for her was stronger than his passionate love for her. What happened? What happened? She's the same Tamar, the same knockout Miss Israel, 10 and a half. Remember the movie 10 and a half? Why did his love for her turn to hate? He had his way with her. The sin is only for the moment. It's gone. Then he's left with shame and guilt. Who did he really hate? Himself. But he projected his hate onto her. He was an Ishiti. Sin, the pleasure is only for the moment. Then you're left with the shame and the guilt. That's incredible. Powerful message of the scapegoat on what? On Yom Kippur. Now questions about Yom Kippur. I'm all ears.
All right, I just came from a share which raised more questions than answers.
Go ahead.
My staff says that having Yom Kippur on Shabbos
Right.
is not the Raisa. It's according to the interpretation of the rabbis at Yavna at the time when they set up the calendar. They could have set it up just as well to not have Yom Kippur come out on Shabbos. But so it makes a difficult question because, you know, the whole Torah says there's nothing more important than Shabbos.
Right.
And so therefore...
How could you fast on Shabbos? That's your question.
No, it's not even
That's the question?
You lose the rest. You lose. You can't say Avinu Malkeinu. It's either she. Even if it's his nor here. It's not Yom
Make
Kippur,
the
it's not
question
Shabbos.
stronger. What's
The question is, why not set up the calendar so that Yom Kippur didn't come out on Shabbos?
Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos. We know that Shabbos is holier than Yom Kippur.
Right.
Did you know that?
Yes. Right.
The proof is not in the pudding, the proof is in the aliyahs. The Gemara Megillah says, if you want to gauge the holiness of the day, the aliyahs. Monday and Thursday has 3, right? Rosh Chodesh has what? 4. Yom Tov has 5. Yom Kippur has 6. Shabbos has 7. So you see that Shabbos what? So the question is, you allowed to fast on Shabbos?
No.
So how come you're fasting? And you are fasting.
Because Yom Kippur pushes out the...
But why? We just proved that Shabbos is holier. That's the question on the table.
They could have pushed off the fast that they push off every other fast.
So the answer is found in the Rambam. The Rambam, every word of his is so precious. He says there's a positive mitzvah to rest from eating and drinking on Yom Kippur. By Tisha B'Av, he says there's a mitzvah to fast. By Yom Kippur, should use the same language. He says there's a mitzvah to rest from eating and drinking on Yom Kippur. Why does he make that? Say like Tisha B'Av. There's a mitzvah to fast on Tisha B'Av, mitzvah to fast on Yom Kippur. But no, the Rambam is telling us that Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av are different. Tisha B'Av, the fast is an affliction. You're fasting for mourning for the temple. So therefore, you're not allowed to mourn on Shabbos. So therefore, if Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos, you push it off. Because Shabbos, you can't mourn. You can't be sad. But when the Rambam says the fast on Yom Kippur is not mourning, you are resting. You're allowing your neshama to what? We all shine on. One day a year, you are what? Having an out-of-body experience. So does the neshama care about macaroni and cheese or taking a shower? That's not a mourning. That's Tisha B'Av. Yom Kippur says, the Rambam, by changing the word, there's a mitzvah to rest. Give it a rest. One day a year, let the neshama what? Shine. Neshama, manja, all you feed. Who thinks about the neshama all year? Manja, scrubbing yourself. The neshama is in the back seat. One day a year. What do you say? I'm a soul man. One day a year. That's the. So therefore, the Rambam says. So therefore, the fasting on Yom Kippur is not mourning. It's shvita. Rambam says you are allowing your neshama to what? Rest and breathe. You're having an out-of-body experience. Avi, I'm not my bodysuit. Don't confuse me with my bodysuit. I'm a soul man. One day a year, I allow my true self to come out, Maddie. What's my true self? My bodysuit? No, that wears out. But that's not me, Shirley. I'm a godly, eternal soul. And for that, eating is what? Give it a rest. Tell Rob, I think the answer is good. Look in the Rambam in Hilchos Yom Kippur. Instead of saying fasting on Yom Kippur, he said it's a mitzvah to rest from eating and drinking, because he's bothered by Yehuda Lev's question.
And then also, you're not supposed to do any requests on Shabbos.
Right.
Here we are requesting on Yom Kippur, so it's a conflict again.
Shabbos, you don't have any requests. Why not?
Shimon Esrei is different.
The Moral Mi Prague says, are you sitting down? I'm glad you asked me this question. We have a dual relation with God. There's an Evet and as a Ben. You know, im kavodim, in kavod. Sometimes we're called God's servant. Sometimes we're called what? God's child. Make up your mind. You sitting down? Write it down. Says the Holy Moral, during the week, when we're fayukt, fahoravit, we can't stop twitching, smartphone, dumb phone. So we relate to God, right? We relate to God as a servant to a king. A servant, he does what the king tells him out of love, out of fear. He doesn't have time. He's chadet, you know, running from here, from one Facebook and this book and that book and more to get. He's agitated. So during the week, we serve God as a servant serves what? The king. A servant to the king has many requests and petitions. But on Shabbos, says the Moral, we are sitting at our Father's table. If you're sitting at your Father's table, what are you requesting? Doesn't the Father know what the child needs, Maddie? By requesting, you're sitting at your Father's table, there's no need to request, says the Moral. Yiddish Benyamin. Shabbos, we are a child sitting at the Father's table, not servant and king. That's for Wednesday. But on Shabbos, when you can't play around with the gadgets, right? You're only into Him. You don't need the gadgets. You're sitting at your Father's table. Well, I have to request. Doesn't a father know what his beloved child needs? It becomes superfluous, Benjamin. Therefore, on Shabbos, no Avinu Malkeinu, and none of the requests. It's not necessary. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the Moral Mi Prague. Are we a child or are we a servant? What's the answer? Wednesday and Shabbos. But it fits beautifully.
So on Yom Kippur, we're certainly requesting, you know, you spare us and everything else. It doesn't seem to connect with
but you don't say Avinu Malkeinu.
You don't say Avinu Malkeinu, which is our most powerful prayer.
You don't need to. It ain't necessary. You're a child sitting at your Father's table. He knows what we need.
The rest of the prayers on Yom Kippur.
I feel more stress fasting on Tisha B'Av than I do on Yom Kippur.
Of course. Of course, Yom Kippur, it's a nachas. How do you say it in German? It's a nachas. It's a Fargenugin. But it's a pleasure. One day a year, I'm saying who I am. I'm not my bodysuit. I'm a godly soul. I'm having an out-of-body experience. Food and drink and schmearing, it becomes a burden. It distracts. It's a chatzitza. I'm in God's mikvah. I'm having an out-of-body experience. I'm bonding with Him. The macaroni and cheese just gets in the way. The Kotzker Rebbe said, on Tisha B'Av, you're so depressed from morning of the temple, who has an appetite to eat? On Yom Kippur, you're so exalted, you're so exhilarated, who needs to eat? Kotzker Rebbe, heard of him, right? Totally different, the black fast and the white fast. They look the same, but they're totally different ideas. Mourning and soaring. Yom Kippur, the fast makes us soar. S-O-R, how do you say in German to soar? To soar. S-O-A-R, soaring. Higher and higher.
And the good news is that on Shabbos, Yom Kippur, you don't have to pray as hard.
What? On Shabbos you don't have to pray as hard.
On Shabbos, Yom Kippur, you don't have to.
That's right. You say much less. Avi, much less to say. You know why? Steigen. Thank you. Steigen. Why don't you help me? Steigen.
So we say in the yeshiva, they say the guy Steigen.
That's Yiddish. Deutsch, Yiddish. Steigen. Why do you say less on Shabbos, Yom Kippur? Because Shabbos you're sitting at your father's table. You don't have to bother him too much. You're a beloved child sitting on your father's lap. You don't have to talk so much. Just what? Groove with him. Bond with him. We should have a tzom mo'il, meaningful fast. We meet Sunday at 2 o'clock for Sukkah, virtual Gan Eden. Sunday at 2 o'clock. David Harrell's Yotzad, you'll see how the Sukkah is a make-believe Gan Eden. Sunday at 2. Thank you. Tzom mo'il, meaningful fast. Thank you.